Welcome to the Andy Social Podcast. My name is Andy Dowling, and this week's shout out, if you are new to the podcast, each and every week I thank somebody who helps me, gives me something to fuel my fire, keeps me motivated, inspired, helps me in a range of different ways. And it doesn't even have to be the Andy Social Podcast. It could be for Self-Starter, it could be for Lord, it could be for anything that I'm involved with. It all helps. When I'm happy, I do better things. And it's just really cool that people do like nice little gestures to keep me going. So it could be a range of different things. It could be just really positive messages of encouragement. Even some constructive feedback is really, really important as well. It could be guest recommendations. It could be buying some merch via, either the Andy Social or Lord online stores. It could be shouting me a beer via the PayPal button on my Andy Social website. A bit of social media love, sharing it around, recommending the podcast or the music to a friend or family member or whatever it might be. It doesn't matter. It all helps. Small, big, it just all adds up, and it keeps me going. It just means a hell of a lot to me. So this week's shout out, I pick one each week. This week's shout out is for Taylor Sharplin, who is from Bruce in the ACT, which is a suburb of Canberra. And I must say, I am such a fan of the suburb Bruce. Not so much of the actual suburb, but that name. And the first time I ever went to Canberra, and I remember you drive, for anyone that's never been to Canberra, as you're driving in, I guess coming from I guess you're coming south in, well, no, from the north, I think. Anyway, I don't know, I've lost my sense of direction already. But when you're coming into the main drag of Canberra, you'll have signs that go off to the left and the right to the suburbs. And there's always a sign there that says Bruce and, with the arrow pointing right. And the first time I ever saw that sign, I just thought, what an awesome name for a suburb, Bruce. So I don't know. I always laugh. Every time I go to Canberra, I love Canberra. And when I see that sign, I just crack up. I just think it's such a dumb name for a suburb. Like, what should we call the suburb? Oh, let's just call Bruce. Like, I wonder if there's a suburb out there called Darrell. I don't know. Maybe there's a bit of logic behind it. Maybe there's a really cool story. I probably should look that up as to why the suburb is called Bruce in the first place. But I crack up. It's so cool. And I just love it. I hope there's more. Actually, I'm pretty sure there's a few other suburbs in Canberra that just have first names like that. I'm pretty sure there's Philip. There's a Philip in Canberra as well. Anyway, sorry, I'm getting sidetracked. There's something about that suburb name. But anyway, Taylor has bought a patch from me. So thank you so much, Taylor, for buying a patch. As I've said on some of the previous shout outs for the people that have bought patches, take a photo, please. I'd love to see where you're representing this patch, if it's on a jacket, on a vest, or if it's on a bag or wherever. I mean, I'd love to see where people sew their patches onto, because I think especially a lot of us metalheads, we love battle jackets, our denim vests, but there's probably so many other really cool places that you can put these patches that I just don't think about. And I'd love to give people more suggestions so people buy more patches, because I think when I'm only explaining it one way, then people only think about it from one angle as well. So anyway, blah blah blah. Thank you so much, Taylor. I really appreciate the support, buying a patch. I'd love to see a photo. And please, when you listen to this, shoot me a message, and I've got some goodies that I'll send out to you in the post, because we all love getting something in the mail. So thank you so much, Taylor. And thank you to everybody that continues to support me in all those different ways. Really appreciate it. Folks, I play bass in the Australian metal band Lord. You probably know already, but just in case you didn't, you can go over to lord.net.au. If you love a bit of old school heavy metal, it's a fantastic website. We've got streaming music, we've got merchandise, we've got our entire back catalogue, we've got video clips, we've got all historical information to learn about every silly little thing about this band. It is a great website. It's one of the best band websites on the internet. I keep gloating about it, but I think it is. I dare you to find a better band website out there. There probably is, but it's a pretty damn good website all the same. So go and check that out, lord.net.au. If you're curious and want a sticky beak, it's a great way to get a taste of what we're all about. In addition to playing in a heavy metal band, I also host the Self-Starter podcast, which is all about small business, self-employment, and freelancing. So depending on what you want out of life, you want to earn a bit of extra coin on the side, or you've got your own business, you're a small business owner, or you're about to launch one, or you just hate your job and you want to get the hell out and do something with a bit more meaning in your life, go to selfstarter.com.au, go and check it out. I've been highlighting business owners and people that have been earning, doing some side hustles and all sorts of stuff. Selfstarter.com.au, there's a fortnightly podcast that goes out. There's a blog there, heaps of resources. If you know anybody that might get value out of this, please direct them there. And as always, please check your podcast player for Self-Starter as well. If you can't find it, please let me know. Lord.net.au, spit it out, Andy. Lord.net.au, sellstarter.com.au, and thank you very much for the support. This episode is with Doug Dalton. Now, I've had Doug on my list to have on the podcast for quite a while, but some of you may not know, but Doug is one of the more requested guests that I've had for the podcast. And, maybe not surprised, but I was a little bit, because every time I put the call out for suggestions, and, I get all sorts of random people. Some are quite lofty and unrealistic, and I go, oh yeah, how the hell am I going to get, I don't know, Hugh Jackman on the podcast? But, I get Doug Dalton over and over and over again. And I've had him on my list for quite a while, and, I was going to get there eventually. But I reached out to Doug, and Doug's been keen to jump on board, and we've had this great chat. And so I'm happy to fulfill some of these requests from you guys. But for anybody that doesn't know Doug is the front man and founder of the Sydney thrash and death metal band Killrazer. They've been around for quite some time. Great band. They've done some amazing shows over the years and supported some really, really cool bands. And also Doug is the man behind Hardline Media, which is a touring and merchandise company. And I was doing a little bit of snooping around online before I caught up with Doug, and I was just having a look at the tours that and the bands that he's brought out over the years, and each and every year he's just ramped it up. He's kicked it up a notch, and he's had more and more bands come out, and he's just done so many great things for Australian metal, by bringing out bands that people would never expect to see in Australia, but also by supplying these great services to bands by printing merchandise, all these different t-shirts, stubby holders, patches, pins, all sorts of stuff that he does. And he just does a lot of great things for Australian bands. And being in a band himself, obviously he's got the perspective, and he's been around the block for so many years. He's played in so many bands. Just a really, really cool guy, and he's doing great things. So all the links, as always, will be in the show notes over at andysocial.net. You can check out Killrazer by going to killrazer.com, or you can go to hardlinemedia.net. But everything we discuss will be in the show notes. All the upcoming tour details, if you want to buy tickets to any of the upcoming shows, will be over in the show notes as well. But, as always, enough rambling from me. Pipe it down, Andy. Please enjoy this episode with Doug Dalton of Killrazer and Hardline Media. What on earth is happening with Killrazer at the moment?
Oh, it's a never-ending question. We're all going gung-ho about 4 or 5 years ago. We pretty much finished the album. Everything was going ahead. We just always had a revolving door of drummers, you might say. We were all still very good friends with, Graham Good, Luke Cook, and Josh was our last drummer. And it just kind of stalled when he left in 2015, I think. We just all got a bit disheartened and not knowing what to do, trying to find another drummer. And then, Jimmy left to join Darker Half, and it was just like me and Zoran. It was like, we just ended up calling Mick, who was our original drummer 12 years ago. He was from we all quit Dark Order to form Killrazer 12 years ago. So yeah. he was the original drummer. He hadn't played since then. But he went out, bought a kit, started practicing, and now he's back up to speed. And we've done a few gigs over the last month. Literally finishing off the final intro piece to the album this weekend. Then hopefully, artwork's pretty much done. It's been done for a while. It'll be out hopefully mid to late September.
Nice, so not far
and,
at all.
We're still looking for another guitarist. We've had Andrew Lilly filling in for a while. But it's been cool because the last few gigs we have done has been the original lineup, which is me and Zoran, Mick on drums, and Andrew Lilly was our first ever guitarist. So it was kind of cool, restarting with the original lineup. But so call out for any guitarists out there if you're looking for a gig.
Well, there you go. I mean, in that sense, and I know it's only sort of a temporary thing, but it's kind of come full circle in a way.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, with everything, because when we first started, we had to write a set really quickly, sort of, and because of the revolving door of lineup members, we never had much new material coming along, because it was always teaching the next person the set kind of thing. But it's been refreshing this last year that we're actually writing as a band. We've got 4 or 5 new songs. It's coming along how we always planned it to. It just took its time, that's all.
Well, I was going to say, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, but you guys you did an EP yonks ago.
Yeah.
and you did the single, which was
Yep.
I think even that's about 4 years ago now as well.
Yeah.
Getting close to.
Yeah.
So and that's been about it as far as like putting actual releases out there. I mean, I know you guys have been doing a lot of live stuff over the years, but I mean that's pretty much been it, hasn't it?
Yeah, I mean, the single was the prelude to the album that was meant to come out. We did the Coroner tour, and we released the single to have on the tour with Coroner, and then the album was meant to come out, but Josh had to leave, the drummer at the time, and it just sort of it just kind of halted again. It was like, fuck, what do we do? So that's then we all kind of we're just disheartened and went our own separate ways doing other stuff. Like we've all got different projects and stuff like that, and and we thought, well, if we're going to get it back together and do it properly, let's just not half-ass it and just get someone to fill in and let's really put some effort into it. So when we are ready, it's back and it's serious and it's proper. The album's done. Let's move forward, get some proper gigs going, get some tours happening, and just, some proper product and be a proper band, not a band that's known, that's not putting anything out, you know what I mean? So
yeah, definitely. I mean, it's funny because it's one of those, Killrazer is one of those bands that the name's been everywhere, and it pops up in conversation, and you guys do get up and play shows here and there. And it almost, I mean, it wasn't until I started sort of, doing a bit of snooping around and writing some notes out, I thought, oh, really? Is that it? Like, because
they haven't got anything.
Because I just, I mean, there's just an assumption, and maybe you guys have just done a really good job over the years of, I mean, maybe whether it's intentional or not, but there's this perception that, you guys are just always visible, and I think a lot of people assume that off the back of that, it's just a natural thing that bands have got a number of releases out in that period of time as well. So I think from the outside, it's probably all fine, and everyone will just be looking forward to when the new album comes out, and all the heartache and the pains that you guys have been going through. Then no one else is the wiser. Yeah,
exactly. I mean, and it'll, because this album will come out, as I said, next couple of months, and then next year we're going to be ready to do another album already.
Great.
So it's going to be like, geez, these guys are prolific, aren't they? They've got 2 albums out in 2 years. It's like, well, the actual fact is, it's just a few years old. But so it's the good thing is that the songs that we've written that were for this album. I mean, geez, one of the songs I wrote in 1992. Before I was even in grunge and and it's the single "Salt in the Wound." It's 18 years old,
Yeah.
And then some of the stuff we've written when we first got together, and the new stuff we've written now, it's all kind of the same. There's no which it's kind of cool that it's not like, oh, that's obvious, that's written when you were 19 or something, and that's just new and that's got that influences. It's good that everything is actually has its own Killrazer sound, which is good, which we're happy with. Like the stuff we're doing now with me, Mick and Soren, it's just like all our other stuff. It's just in your face, angry. I hate saying the word brutal, it is.
Well, buzzwords.
It's like brutal, but it's like, it's angry.
Yeah.
You listen to it and you go, fuck, what are you pissed off about? That's what we like to purvey is, I mean, I always say, everyone has their favorite Slayer song, and it's usually off Rain and Blood, but to me it's Disciple, God Hates Us All. You listen to that song.
Oh
It's angry. It's it's not blast beaty, it's not heavy in that way, it's just anger, like to a T. And that's what we like to convey,
It's cool. And I think, I mean, even you said before, like having stuff that's been sitting around for so long, I mean, that's probably one of the benefits of metal versus other genres where, we can always go back and pick things up from the past, and it's still relevant now. It's still fresh, and people love it. And a lot of people sit in those earlier eras of metal and those classic bands, and it's not dated. It's not something that's gets sort of forgotten about in time. It's something that's just continuously sort of gone. Like people just go back to it all the time. So. You can sit on stuff for a few decades, and
exactly.
and it's still good to go, and I think that's awesome.
Yeah, exactly.
I think it's so cool that regardless of all the things that happen and the dramas and people coming and going and all this kind of stuff, that the asset is in the song, and you can sit there and it can wait, and in time it can be unleashed to everybody else. And I mean, obviously that song's already out, but just having the rest of that material there ready to go is pretty cool.
Yeah, no, exactly. So we're pumped to just get the lineup going, and then dust all the cobwebs off all these songs we've had for so long, and just get the new ones out there. So the new songs' reactions have been pretty well, because it's very rare that you've seen any Killrazer at any time and we've gone, this is a new song. You know, that hasn't happened for a long time. So it's good to actually play some new stuff, you know, so it's good.
And I guess like the really cool thing about this album that's going to come out is because people have been hearing the stuff live for a while, that you'll probably get a really quick buy-in from a lot of like your inner core, those people that have just been following you guys and loyal for that period of time where, you know, like, you know, for any of us, when we buy a new album from a band that we like, you know, we still got to get used to the songs. We still got to
you don't know the songs that are,
But at least with these ones, they've had some road time. You know, they've been out there. People know the songs and they're familiar to a degree, and then it just makes it a quicker buy-in. So I think you should.
I didn't think of it that way. Yeah, jeez, this could go bold. But no, you're right. It's like the majority of our fans do know the songs. So yeah, you are right. It'll be finally, I get to hear this song properly recorded. You know?
That's it. That's it. And there's heaps of bands. I mean, you know this for sure. Like over the years, so many awesome bands that, you know, we've all seen live, and they just never got their shit together and recorded anything, like not even a demo or anything of the such. And then they just disappear, and then there's nothing left. There's no record, and nobody can go back and enjoy this music. You have to physically be there in the room and then try and remember it. And
exactly.
And that's it. And so be able to, you know, translate these songs in a recorded format that people can listen to whenever they want, and listening to it the proper way, you know, it's really, really good.
Yeah, no, it's good. And the good, what was I going to say there? Like, and that's like with your favourite bands. Like sometimes, you know, Australian tours start with an overseas band, and then they get here before the album's released. Like I'm pretty sure when Anthrax came out on Persistence of Time, the album wasn't out here yet.
Yeah, right.
I'm pretty sure. And you go to see them, you hear, as I said, you hear that song once, and then the album comes out a month later, but you remembered that song that you heard a month ago, drunk at a venue, and you go, like, that's a good song, you know, like.
Yeah. I think it's. I mean, it's a great ploy, and I know a lot of bands have done that over the years, where they'll go out on a quick run and preview some songs before, you know, the upcoming release. It's a bit of early promo for the band, but you know, I mean, it's a great way. I don't know if there's some sort of psychological sort of, you know, advantage here, but, you know, if I'm listening to something and I can recall a particular section or a riff or, you know, a chorus or something like that, then my buy-in for that album is like tenfold what it would have been if I had nothing to reference it off.
Oh, totally.
And,
100%.
You know, you've got a full album worth of stuff that people can latch onto straight away, which is really cool.
Yeah, no, good. That's good point. I thought of that, but yeah, thank you.
And it must be. I mean, it must be refreshing for you guys to be able to get to this point now. And I mean, I don't know. Has there been a lot of sort of stress on yourself or, you know, some of the other guys over the last few years of this music just sitting there and everything sort of this, you know, I don't know, this brick wall for a while where you just can't quite get past it?
Nah, a lot of stress because you can only play the same songs over and over and over at rehearsal, but you know, there's always someone new. You've got to teach them to it, and our songs aren't easy, so you've got to rehearse them for months to get them tight, and then it's like, then someone else is in the band, there's someone else, and you got to re-rehearse, and you know, but it does make it that fresher, a bit more fresh each time there is someone new because it's, you know, it's a different feel and everything. But I mean, the stresses. I mean, Zoran's toured overseas in a couple of bands. Like he went to Japan with Hobbs Angel of Death. He's been to Europe with Assaulter. I did all the Paul Di'Anno, Blaze Bailey, Ripper Island stuff. You know, Jimmy joined Darker Half, and he toured Europe a couple of times. And so we're all doing stuff, but Killrazer was just sitting there doing nothing because we still had to do things, you know. And that was the frustrating thing, because whatever we were doing, people would be going, "So what's happening with Killrazer?" It's like that question we got sick of being asked, but now we actually have an answer, you know. So yeah, it was very, very frustrating, and just I mean, if we'd only been together for a year or something, we probably would have gone, you know, screw this, let's just go off and do what we want. But because we put so much time and effort into it and not actually had any official kind of product out, we couldn't just let it go, you know. So
yeah, it just becomes one of those bands, as I said before, you know, as an example, you know, bands that we've all seen play and have all its potential and a fantastic live, and there's great memories, but the memories fade as the years go on because there's nothing left behind, apart from maybe, if you're lucky, there might be a faded T-shirt lying in someone's cupboard. But
exactly.
But there's nothing to listen to, and absolutely, I think, you know, finally being able to capture a lot of this stuff will certainly probably close one particular door for you guys, a bit of closure, but also then open up that next chapter.
Yeah, very, very long door. Is it long door or deep door or something? But yeah, it's the first. I mean, and the good thing is the album's going to be called The Burial Begins. So,
Oh, there you go. I like that.
you know, and even the first song we wrote together is called Decade of Blood. It's just like, fuck, you know, it's been 10 years, you know, so it's all tying in well.
That's cool. And I mean, you mentioned before, you know, everyone went off in that period of time in these sort of dips where everyone got busy and just did other things, involved in other projects and other bands and touring and all of this. And do you think that if you guys didn't have any of that and you guys were just focusing, like, I'm just trying to think of other examples of other people we both probably know where the band sort of sits there dormant and everyone just goes back to their usual 9-to-5 mundane job. Do you think that if you guys didn't have all this extra sort of creative stuff that you're involved with, that, you know, it would have been a lot tougher over that period of time, or it would have seemed even longer?
I mean, it's a two-way street, I guess, kind of thing. I mean, if we would have been putting 100% in every day, just trying to get it together, it might have gotten together. But it just, you know, as you know, playing in bands, and especially in this kind of stuff, like the hardest thing to find is a drummer. That is the hardest, you know, they're very hard to find. And so if it was a guitarist or bass player or singer, it'd be like, you know, you can keep going and trying people. The drummers are just like, you know, if you're a good drummer, you're taken.
Yeah.
You know, you're in a band and you're taken. That's kind of it, you know. So I think we all knew that it's like, well, it could take a year to find a good drummer, you know, or 2 years. Let's just do our own thing, you know, because if anything, it's just going to expose our band more as well, you know. I mean, when Zoran's off playing Japan and stuff, he's wearing a Killrazer shirt on stage. It's like, oh, cool, you know. So it's maybe if we did not do anything else and just concentrate on what we, you know, getting the line up and getting the album out, it could have worked, but we might have been sitting there for 2 or 3 years just, you know, killing ourselves and then maybe getting the shits for not doing other things. So,
yeah,
you know, who's to say, yeah.
Oh, that's right. I think probably, I mean, also, I don't know, maybe I use this term all the time, but maybe I'm a glass half full kind of guy because I just, I see like all the stuff that you've been doing personally, what Zoran's been doing, Jimmy, all these guys over the years. I mean, no doubt, whenever that moment came back where you all came back together, you've all come back with just a little bit more than what you had beforehand. I mean, you know, people are getting more road experience. I mean, I know that you guys have been around the traps for quite a few years, but you're consistently just getting new exposure to different things. I mean, you've changed the dynamic big time with getting into all this tour promotion, bringing people out, getting heavy into the sort of the merchandise aspect as well. Yeah. And so every time you guys would get back together, it's just, I don't know, maybe just one little extra piece to the puzzle that you didn't have beforehand.
Oh, totally agree with you. Yeah, I totally agree. And, you know, if I go off and do, like, say we haven't done anything for 3 years, within that 3 years, Zoran might have done 70 gigs with the One Electric and 10 with Hobbs Angel of Death and 20 with Assaulter, and I've probably done 50 gigs and other things. And so, yeah, when you come back, you're not rusty either. You know, which is you've got your chops up.
Yeah, know? Absolutely. So it's quicker to pick up where you left off instead of, you know, having no playing experience for several years or months or whatever, and then just
like I'm reading Dee Snider's book at the moment, and he says one of his quotes is I'll probably get it wrong, but it's preparation plus opportunity equals not success, but it's like, you know, he was going on about in the early 70s, you know, he wasn't in a band for a year, but he joined a band that he couldn't give a shit about just so he could keep his chops up. So when the call came from a band that he liked, he was, you know, had his chops up. It's like you can't play in a football team or something and take a year off. You've got to keep fit. You can't just take a year off then go play again. You've got to, you know. So I guess
it's true.
Yeah,
it's absolutely true. I mean, I think I know the quote, and I won't be able to get it right, but it's similar to what people say about luck, and people go, "Oh, you're lucky," and luck comes from that preparation and working hard, so that when you can see the opportunities or you're considered for opportunities, and then you get lucky with the opportunity. But you don't get that opportunity unless you put the hard work in first, and you're getting out there and doing different things. So, and regardless of whether it's the direct thing or an indirect thing, it's just it's a sum of everything that you do.
Yeah, and also, you know, that dreaded word, it's also networking, you know.
Oh, yeah.
It's, you know, you might be playing with someone else and that band guy goes on to someone else, and then all of a sudden you got your thing going again, and all of a sudden this guy's in another band, and then you might be, you know, it's all, you know, yeah, you don't sit there and wait for things to come to you. You've got to get out there and get them, whether it's, you know, with what your main goal is, or, you know, pilfering off and doing side things as well, just as long as, you know, you're going out and getting it. You know, I'm sick of, you know, in music and business, just people go, you know, it's going to come to me. It's like, it's, you know, it does happen to some people, and, you know, but you've got to go get it yourself.
Well,
you've got to work, you know.
Yeah, oh, that's right. You know, the simple concepts, you know, but people fail to remember, you know, what actually is involved to get anything in life. But, you know, you got those people that expect everything, but those same people are the ones that sit back and criticize everybody else.
Yeah, totally.
And whinge that there's nothing, you know, nothing positive that's going on, or, you know, everything that's wrong in the world. And you just think, man, like, you know, there's so much in your control that you're just not doing anything about, and you're focusing on everything else, which is just, you know, counterproductive. So it's, but
Yeah.
I mean, that's a lot of musicians in general. I think it's changing now with the internet, and I think more people are understanding that you've got to, I think people are more exposed, and so I think people have got to really sort of put in the hard yards now, and it shows, and everyone can see that. But but yeah, there's definitely a stereotype that's still around with certain musicians, where they sit back and go, well, why isn't it happening to me?
Yeah, exactly. You know, and that's it. Like, you know, a lot of the biggest bands aren't the best musicians. They're people that went out and got it. And, you know, whoop, hang on. I'm sitting on the veranda and there's a bird fight going on. Let's rock and roll. There we go. They're going there.
That's right. Just adds to the vibe of the conversation. There you go.
Yeah. Like, there's this guy that, like, my wife went to school with. What's his name? Nick Mabry. He's a perfect example. Just a guy who plays guitar. He's not a virtuoso. You know, just plays rock guitar. Thought, screw this. Got to move to LA. Met a couple of people. Then all of a sudden he's, you know, looking after Perry Farrell's house. And then he's doing something else. Then he's playing with Slash. Next week he's jamming with Prince. Then he's in the band with the brothers from Good Charlotte. What are they called? The Madden Brothers.
Oh, yeah.
And then he was, you know, playing for singing for Stone Temple Pilot. What's his name?
Oh, yeah. I know who you're talking about.
Yeah. Was his guitarist, and was on the tour bus when he died. Scott Weiland, yeah.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
And now he plays for Juliette Lewis. No one in Australia kind of knows who he is.
Yeah.
He's a guy from the Northern Beaches in Sydney, and he's touring the world with these bands. He's not a virtuoso. It's because he went over there, and he's reliable, and he just got his name around, you know?
That's it. Put the hard yards in and made himself available, and that's half the battle. And
yeah, totally.
I think many people sort of sit back and just, well, they wait for the things to come, but there's also, I mean, maybe we're suckers here in Australia because we've got that tall poppy syndrome as well. So for anybody that shows even just a little bit of ambition and tries to sort of make something of themselves, then there's always several people around that cut them back down the size and go, come on, mate. Don't get a big head now.
Totally. I mean, another one was like Astronoom, Jamie.
Yeah.
You know, we all know Jamie. He packed his guitar and moved to Norway and joined Demood Gear, for God's sake. You know, and he copped, I remember, like, he copped flack for it. It's like, why?
It doesn't even make sense. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, it's like.
But then that's a reflection of the people that are hanging shit on him or people like that, where, you know, it's just a reflection of, you know, their own frustrations or their own insecurities that, you know, they have to react in that sort of way. And it's you know, that whole feeling of, well, it's unfair that I'm at home and I'm not doing these things, and I'm not in Norway, or I'm not in the US, and I'm not doing all this great stuff. So anybody else that's doing amazing things, well, you know, fuck them.
Yeah, and it shits me because my living is like, you know, was being a roadie for years, like for, you know, Beyonce and Pink and all that stuff. And I'd see how hard they'd work. And then with bringing out bands that I tour and that I do now, and you see their work ethic.
Yeah.
Like nothing's handed to any of these bands I've ever worked with. They work their asses off, you know. And yeah, everyone just gives them thumbs up because they've just worked. They deserve it, you know.
Well, there's I mean, people will say, you know, they've got, some of these guys have got, not so much probably the metal bands, but, you know, a lot of these big pop artists will say, well, they've got all the backings of the big labels and things like that. But in the end, you still got to put the effort in to be able to pull off the things that they're doing. And it's not something that you can just waltz in and it's just all there. It does involve people, and it involves, you know, a high level of skill and effort to be able to present themselves and promote themselves and perform in those particular ways. And I think people just sort of lose sight of those sort of things and that appreciation and just giving credit where it's due.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, I don't. I'm not it's not metal, it's shit kind of person. It's like, as you just said, you got to give credit where credit is due, regardless of what music it is or art or, I was talking to, who was it? I think it was Paul from Utopia or something the other day. And you get this elitism within metal. It's like, you like black metal, you're a wanker. I only like glam metal, or I only like Norwegian black metal, or I only like thrash metal. He said it's like walking into someone's house and you're right into, say, the Larry David show, Curb Your Enthusiasm.
Yep.
And but they've got the Seinfeld box set. You don't sit there and go, you're a fucking idiot because you got the Seinfeld box set. It's
it's all great and well
it's
done.
All good.
Yeah.
I'm not talking to you because you like, everyone loves Raymond, you pansy. Like, it's just, yeah.
It's funny because, if you talk to your average metalhead, and I think it's all changing anyway, because I think everyone's more exposed. We're not in our little pockets
bubble anymore.
That's it. We're mingling a lot more with lots of different people. So I think it is changing, but your stereotypical metalhead will always talk about the things like going against the grain, we don't hang out with posers, and we're anti-establishment and all this sort of stuff. It's even borderline punk, but yet they'll hang shit on all the people that are also fans of metal and believe that same sort of code of ethics, even though they like a different subgenre of metal. And suddenly they become, the people that they hate. And it's just, I mean, it's more of a human thing rather than it being like this metal thing. I think just people like their little tribe and where they feel comfortable. And there's a bit of an adrenaline rush when you get to hang shit on someone or jump on the bandwagon with a few other people and start taking the piss.
Yeah. Yeah, because ironically, it makes you feel part of it and being inside a bubble again.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Yeah.
like say Parkway Drive, right? I've worked for them just for a couple of shows, and if you shut your eyes and didn't look at the crowd, it could be borderline death metal. A kind of death metal. Okay, you open your eyes and it's a bunch of short-haired guys with white t-shirts jumping up and down. But it's like when Max Cavalier is talking about when he was growing up in Brazil, and before you could actually see these bands in magazines, he had a tape, and one side was Celtic Frost and the other side was Discharge. Two bands that couldn't be polar opposite. Absolutely. If you look at them. If you look at them, they're like, well, Celtic Frost and Corpse Paint or Discharge, but if you didn't see the picture, it was purely just the music, which is what it's actually meant to be about. Both bands totally ruled and were kind of very similar. I mean, you put an early Discharge record or a Celtic Frost record, they're both, neither of them are crap. They're both really good.
Well, I mean, I'll throw this out here because we're finishing off our album at the moment. I've got no idea when the hell it's coming out, but we're sort of finishing off the recording at the moment. And one thing that our whole angle of this album is going to be around the old school mixtape. And when you used to dub songs and just throw a bit of everything on this tape and you'd play it and your mates or whatever, especially when you're new to metal, like you didn't really know a lot. You didn't know all the subgenres and all the elitism that was there. And you could have and Tim sort of thought back into his days as a teenager as well, where you would have like Slayer and Testament and all these bands playing, but then you'd have like Bon Jovi and Dokken and all this other stuff. But it was all just metal. Like there was no like segregation. And some people might like one song or one band over the other, but there was never sort of any massive divide. It was just metal. And so for us, that's going to be our angle for this album. Is that's
awesome. Awesome.
We do a bit of everything anyway, but in the end, like we don't give a shit. Like if we want to put a blast beat in there, then that's fine. If we want to put some sort of massive melodic chorus and harmonies and all this sort of stuff, then we'll do that. In the end, it's just metal, and we can't even we're beyond pigeonholing ourselves or going, well, what sort of album are we going to write? We're just going to write a metal album, and that's it. And just take the pressure off everybody, even the listener, so they don't have to worry about what is it. It's just a metal album. That's it. So yeah, definitely. So it's something that I think hopefully people will understand and gravitate towards, and hopefully it's a little bit refreshing because I think it gets to a point where it just gets so ridiculous with these genres, and the genres are great. Like it's fantastic, especially if you like particular things over another. But when it causes a massive divide and people become a little bit of an elitist about certain things and start hanging shit on others, then it doesn't help anybody. So it's
Yeah, I mean, I've got a saying I always use. It's like, mate, it's better than 50 Cent, right? It's like, I know that, you know, they might be singing about chicks in this one, and this one they might be singing about the devil. But either way, it's a band playing guitars with distortion, and it's better than 50 Cent. So just
that's right. It could always be worse.
Yeah, exactly. And like as you were saying, like I remember growing up when Rage first came out, it was like the metal section would be like, especially like I think early 90s when, you know, Metallica and Megadeth and Wake Up Dead and all those kind of clips were on. It'd be, it might be Wake Up Dead 1, You Give Love a Bad Name, you know, Dokken, and maybe The Angels, and you'd record all 5.
Yeah,
you know, because that's
loud guitars, and just it was just rock and metal, and it hadn't even hit a point yet where you could really sort of start talking about all these. I mean, yes, people talking about genres of metal, but not to the extent that it became sort of into the 90s and then beyond after that. So
yeah.
And I mean, I just remember me just like discovering metal and having no clue, just being completely ignorant and naive to everything and just going, that sounds cool. And then when I grew up a little bit more and you start sort of trying to find, you know, who the cool kids are to hang out with, and then suddenly you realize that half the songs that you listen to aren't cool. And so then you start questioning yourself and go, oh, geez, I better not like that song anymore. And it's just, it's really funny how we react to things like that, because in the end, the song's a song, and especially for a lot of us, you know, if it's got a loud guitar, it's got a great riff and a great chorus, and it's just got that drive and that it doesn't even have to be aggression, but something that's just got some power behind it, is what it's all about. And I think that's why a lot of us have stuck with it for so many years.
Like I remember being in high school. Like I went to high school on the South Coast. You know, me and my brother were the only metalheads in the school, and like, you know, Appetite for Destruction came out like 2 years or something before Sweet Child of Mine came out. Like, you know, they were ready to do their second album, and Appetite for Destruction was a bomb, didn't sell. You know, it took off 2 years later. And so we'd be bringing Appetite for Destruction to school, and everyone just thought it was shit. Like the teachers, everyone just thought it was like complete crap. 2 years later, these exact people are wearing bandanas, you know, doing the Axel snake dance, and, you know, and we're just now onto Metallica, and same thing. Metallica shit, you know, and 2 years later, Black Album, and they're all the same people into. Like it's just like, come on, man. It became a point, and I guarantee so many people have done this, that you stopped wearing your Metallica shirt because you thought you didn't want to be thought of these people that are just into it because it's trendy. You know, it's like, no, I was into them since Kill 'Em All, you know, kind of thing.
Oh yeah, man. And I mean, I've been on the other side of that, where I remember seeing, I think I've told this story a million times before, but I saw Pantera on the last tour in 01 or whatever, up in Brisbane. And I was barely 18, but I had like it must have been the 98 or whatever Metallica tour t-shirt. So it was like for the Reload tour or whatever. So Poor Retouring Me tour t-shirt. Yep. And I remember because Corrosion of Conformity was supporting, and I was so excited to see them. I never thought they'd ever come to this country. So when I saw them as the support, I just freaked out. Anyway, they rocked up for soundcheck in the afternoon, and I got photos with them. And so me just being naive and not knowing anything, I got photos with them, and then I ran around to the gate door where I was going to go into the venue, and there's a bunch of dudes that have been sitting there all day waiting for the doors to open, and they're older guys. And I'm like, oh, guys, if anyone's interested, Corrosion of Conformity just around the corner, if anyone wants to get some photos. And they go, who the fuck's that? That sounds like a shit band. Oh, by the way, why would I listen to anyone that's got a fucking Metallica t-shirt on? And I just like,
oh, man.
And I was like, oh, no worries, man, no worries. And then I just sort of sat down and went, oh.
Yeah.
But it was just that kind of stuff, you know. It was just, it's funny how we change our opinions of things, or how we have to put up a front about what's cool and what's not, you know.
Yeah, like I remember kind of a similar story, but in reverse. I got to interview Dave Vincent on the Domination tour. My brother's girlfriend was working at Beat magazine or something. So, do you want to go watch Morbid Angel and interview Dave Vincent? Yes! You know, so we go there, we interview Dave Vincent at the Metro, and he's like, what are you guys doing now? I was like, nothing. He's like, well, come meet me at the Cross. We're staying at the hotel there and we'll go for some beers. I'm like, you serious? You know, I'm 19.
Awesome.
Going, yes. So rock up. We're in his hotel room, you know, rock in there. There he is just after a shower with a towel on. It's like, oh, Dave, you know. But anyway, so we go downstairs. We're walking down the Cross, right? And Dave Vincent's wearing a pair of shorts, a purple, like surfy tie-dyed kind of shirt with his hair tied back, and a pair of like Crocs. You know,
stylish. Love it.
Stylish. You know, we're walking down the street, and towards us is just a throng of studs and leather and sweat. You know, all wearing Morbid Angel shirts. They've obviously just all been to the gig. You know, it's literally probably about 10 of them.
Yeah.
And we're all standing there having a cigarette or something. Like Dave Vincent goes, "Fucking Morbid Angel." And they all looked at him and said, "Fuck off, you poser," and told him to get fucked. Because they thought he was some guy in a surfy kind of shirt, you know, in the Cross to see strippers or something. And it's like, dude, you just told Dave Vincent to get effed because, you know, all the metalheads say, "Oh, everyone judges me by my cover," kind of thing. Well, you just did it to your idol. You know?
So funny.
It's oh man. You know,
hopefully he thought it was amusing and just laughed.
He said it happens all the time.
Oh.
Yeah, he said it, yeah. Because he's not walking around in a red leather codpiece. He's, you know, he's just.
Well, I mean, that's probably the really good thing. It's probably a tactic in a way because at least you don't get hassled as much probably after shows if you want to go out for a drink or something.
Yeah,
just wearing the complete opposite of what anyone would expect you to be wearing, you know, if they were identifying you as that person in the band. Oh man, that's so funny. Oh man.
I've got another very quick story of mistaken identity, if you like.
Yeah.
First ever Paul Di'Anno tour we did, which I think you guys supported a couple of shows. I'm not sure, but anyway, we're in Adelaide and we're in the airport and this guy rocks in. He's got like the big sunset strip hair and, you know, the sunnies from Chips and stuff like that, and he's just looking off his head. He sits down, puts his head back and just starts snoring, and we're like cracking up, just going, "Oh, look at this guy, he thinks he's from the Sunset Strip," you know. All of a sudden, two guys in suits sit either side of him. It's like, oh, hang on. And what dawned on us was Steve Adler from Guns N' Roses. Right, because he was out here doing a clinic tour.
Yeah.
So I walk towards him, and the two security guys are going, you know, piss off kind of thing. I said, "Oh, no, look, we're here with the guy from Iron Maiden, like Paul Di'Anno." And Steve Adler stands up and hugs me, going, "Paul, it's great to see you." And I'm like, no, I'm not him. But anyway, we get on the plane, and Steve Adler's sitting in front of me, and Paul Di'Anno next to me.
Yep.
Over the PA on the plane, the pilot goes, "We're really happy to have our musician friends with us on this flight. Hope you have a good one to Adelaide," and this kind of stuff. We're like, "Cool, this is awesome." You know? The air stewardess comes up and goes to Paul Di'Anno, goes, "Oh, are you guys in a band?" And they're like, yeah, I'm in Iron Maiden. He's Guns N' Roses. And the air stewardess looks at them and goes, "Oh, sorry, we were told someone from Metallica was on the plane," and walked off. And you've never seen two people just go, oh, like the ego just deflate. It was, but it was hilarious.
Amazing.
Yeah. Oh, Iron Maiden and Guns N' Roses. Oh, sorry, we
just not good enough. No, sorry.
Yeah, we thought it was Metallica.
Yeah, we thought Lars was on the plane. Sorry, no.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's not good enough.
Oh man, and you know what? Like, I love it because, you know, these guys are idols for so many of us, and they've been around the traps, and they've lived these amazing lives, and they've played some of the biggest stages in the world, and they've had all the success, and even they will have these moments where, you know, people just bring them back down to earth, you know, and because you and me would be the same with, you know, just getting around the place and having to talk to somebody, and they're like, "Oh, well," you know, and they size you up, and you got long hair, and, you know, you're wearing a band t-shirt or whatever, and then they'll ask those questions, and then that, you know, usually the thing for us will be, "Oh, so do you play originals?" And it's like, "Oh, yeah," and they're like, "Oh, all right, no worries," and that's it. They just zone out. Whereas I guess it's a slightly different conversation for some of these other guys, but it's the same sort of thing where you're just constantly being brought back down to size by, I guess, the general public who aren't as interested in it all as we are.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I usually get asked, so what do you ride, mate?
No.
What? It's because I'm huge. They're like, oh, yeah, what do you ride, mate? I'm like, I don't. I've got a Gibson.
Oh, yep, good bike.
I should look at them and go, I ride the fucking Lightning. I don't know.
That might be taken another way altogether, depending on who you're talking to. Far out.
Yeah, I know. Actually, yeah, you're right there. Yeah. Be careful.
You have been, and I'll say this, and I mean no offense when I say it, you have been around the traps for quite some time. So,
yes.
And not only playing in bands, and you support some really, really great bands over the years, like going right back to the early 90s and, in more recent years. And then also, as you mentioned before, being a roadie and doing like a lot of work for some amazing artists, and then also being a tour promoter as well. You've had so much exposure to what I would call greatness, really amazing people that have done a lot of great things. Have there been people, or has there been a particular person over the years that's really sort of, I don't know, schooled you in a way that you've sort of learnt the ropes along the way, or learnt how to hold yourself, or how to be a musician, or how to be, I don't know, somebody in music? Has there been ever an influence along the way that sort of just opened your eyes up and gone, wow, like that's something I need to take into account, or something to think about?
It's been a couple, I guess. Like, I mean, one thing that I now have ammunition in my pocket that if I'm ever doing a local gig with local bands, if there's any attitude, it's like, well, look, when we did Nuclear Assault last year, Nick Barker, the drumming gods, Cradle of Filth, Mugabe, Testament, like Lockdown, where do you stop? Brugeria, set up his own kit, packed it down. John Connolly, the singer from Nuclear Assault, pushed all his own cases on stage, cracked all the lids, set up his own stack, packed it down at the end of the night. You know what I mean? These are icons that could have just sat on their ass and clicked their fingers, and anyone would have done it for them. They're like, no, like, we do it ourselves. It's like, okay, so so when I see a local band going, why is my amp set up yet? It's like, you fucking serious? So that, and even like, like, I know people might laugh at it, but the Pink Floyd tribute band, like Pink Floyd Experience and stuff, but they're huge. They sell out Luna Park and stuff. They set up all their own gear. Was working for Exodus and Fear Factory on a tour, and they used to hang their own backdrop up and set up their own stuff. And it's just people that have made it and can easily get someone to work for them. And there's actually people already hired to work for them, still do it themselves. After all this time, and they're of a certain age and they're probably, a bit tired, but they still do it themselves, kind of thing. So that's always just stuck with me, that, look, if you're just playing at the Lewisham or the Stag, set your own gear up and unpack it, or pack it back up, kind of thing.
And just really quickly on that, like, what do you think, like, some of those guys would not hesitate in just doing it themselves if they've, especially, like, I don't know, just using the Exodus comment, there would be guys that would be hired to be able to help them out doing those things. But what do you think? What do you potentially think that the reason why they just don't hesitate and do it themselves?
Look, maybe it's because they're all, hitting their early 50s and stuff, and they're enjoying just getting back into it or something. I don't know. It's, they probably didn't do it in their 30s and stuff, but maybe they're just, more appreciative of being there, which is what a lot of younger bands maybe aren't, or local bands aren't appreciative of actually being there.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, you know the Desecrator guys, like they are the hardest working. Like, we did the Venom tour with them last year, right? It was 6 shows. They drove show to show, like drove from Melbourne to Sydney, then drove from Sydney to Brisbane, like overnight, right? They set up everything for Venom and themselves, packed it down, then drove to Adelaide. Like, we're talking, 15-hour drives and stuff to get to the next show, to work, set their own gear up, and just an ask for naught kind of thing. Just,
man, and knowing Riley, I reckon he would have deliberately picked the road option just for the extra bit of adversity. So not only does he have a great story, but he can just totally immerse himself in the atmosphere of just being on the road and just living it rough.
Yeah.
It's just so his style, and that band style. And I guess that's what makes that band so special. And they are what they are because of it. But it's no surprise when you say that.
Yeah, but that work ethic, look what happens. Like, Venom chose them to be their support. Oh,
Yeah.
Venom Inc. Sorry, Kronos, Venom Inc. It's fucking Venom. It's Mantis and Abaddon. So, and Tony Dolan. But it's
Yeah.
like, they requested them because when they toured Europe with Venom Inc., Venom Inc. were going to pull out of the tour because they weren't hired roadies and stuff. So Riley and that all stepped up and said, look, we will do everything for you for the next month. And so they requested them in Australia. And now they're obviously going to tour soon and they're going to request them overseas. That's what happens. Like, if they would have just turned up and not done anything, they wouldn't have got requested. No matter how good the band is.
It's that reputation, isn't it? I mean, it's
yes, totally.
It's just, especially in this kind of world where, there's no real qualification to do anything. You don't get a certificate and there's only certain people that are allowed to do certain types of jobs. It's basically whoever's got the biggest mouth and the biggest wallet is able to sort of run things. And so it's very hard to navigate through a lot of the crap out there. And obviously the people that do the right thing have the longevity and they stick around for the long term. But, it's sometimes...
Goes back to that word I said before, networking. It actually does.
Yeah, absolutely. 100%. And it's... sometimes the people that are reliable and go above and beyond, they're the ones that stand out like a sore thumb, because sometimes it's really, really hard. You've got so many people out there that are just full of shit or just very lazy. Yeah.
It's all reputation and ethic, It's got a lot to do with it. Like, there's promoters out there that would and have offered the bands we've toured more money and stuff, but they come to us because we've got a relationship with them. We treat them well. They leave here feeling really good. It's not always about the money or exposure, or I mean, exposure is good. It's about wanting to feel safe and being in a surrounding that is a good surrounding. If that makes any sense.
Oh, I think so. And it's a case where I think people are starting to think a little bit more long term as well. It's like, well, can we make this good and reliable that we can come back again in the future? So we're not just thinking about where's the best way to milk this opportunity and absolutely just go hard and not worry about whether we come back or not. It's like, we want this to continue and we can see, things happening in the future. So what can we do to set ourselves up in the right way that we've got that longevity there?
Yeah, like you'll see, we're announcing a couple of bands. By the time this is out, they would have already been announced. But you'll go, oh, shit, Hardline Media got them. The reason we've got them is because the bands we've recently toured have gone back and told them about us, word of mouth, networking. And these people are reliable. And I guarantee they're going to say, can you choose these same support bands they had because they helped us as well. They did that, that's how it works, I guess.
And definitely, especially if, and I guess with some of these guys, they work on similar booking rosters or, different agents that, they'll have a number of bands under their umbrella. So if they go back and they tell, their agent that, everything was above board and they got paid and they were looked after, then, obviously then that opens up those future opportunities where, oh, well, actually we've got another 3 or 4 bands that probably are due a trip out, so let's see whether there's a possibility there.
Yeah, exactly. Yep.
You were going to mention a couple of other examples of some of the other people that you've sort of come across in the past.
Let me think. Gilby Clark, that's one, like Guns N' Roses. Yeah. Oh yeah, I know he's not Izzy Stradlin. I hate this,
I didn't say anything.
No, not you. I mean, there's other people. It's people go, no, he was only in it for 6 months. No, he was in it for 4 or 5 years. He did the entire Use Your Illusion double album tour. Like, he's a member.
Yeah.
He's seen some things. Let's say,
Yeah, that's right.
Just being with him and just seeing how humble he is, like just so nice to everyone, like so personable and nice, and yes, photos and autographs. Like literally at the airport, security from the the baggage coming out and getting photos with him, just the whole time, never once bit of attitude, even if we knew he might be hungover or had the shits or something, just never ever anything but manners and being polite, and just if there was any problems, it's just like just tell me the problems. If there's any problems, sweet, just tell me. We talk about them. Was never any, for someone who's done as much as he has, there was just zero attitude. It's like, yes, that's what it's about. Whereas other bands, like, you've done bugger all and you're a prick. You know, I know you got a 7-inch single out on some underground German label or something, but that means shit. You know, it's kind of, yeah. So I guess just always try and be nice. Like even if you've had a, well, that's just a general life thing. If you had a bad day, don't be a prick to anyone, but especially not in the industry kind of things. You never know who you're talking to.
Oh, that's it. That stuff comes back tenfold. Even if it doesn't happen instantly, it comes back one way or the other. And sometimes you don't even understand why, like how it comes back. You know, something happens and you're disadvantaged, and you don't even understand that it was something that you did a long time ago.
Yeah, totally.
That comes back and bites you on the ass. But I mean, do you think that with some of these guys, especially some of these musicians that have been around the traps for so long, they've seen so much, and they've probably had these amazing successful shows, and then probably had absolute fucking shithouse of a show or shows along the way, that I guess that humble approach and having that longevity and the experience out there would probably help them, I guess, manage themselves better, because they've seen it all to a degree, whereas some of these other guys who have done fuck all are a little bit high and mighty and high maintenance and hard to deal with, because they just haven't seen it. Like they haven't experienced all that there's to experience yet. So they haven't had the adversity yet to really sort of appreciate what they've actually got.
Yeah, like everyone takes a fall, no matter where you are in your career. Everyone's had, like, you know, all our idols, that they've all had falls, and, you know, like, you know, punches to their ego and whatever, you know, they're
told on a plane that they're not Metallica, so it doesn't matter.
Yeah, exactly. Like, fuck, you know, especially with an Adelaide crowd, like, you know. So it's just like,
With Hardline, so just with the timeline of events, what came first? Was it so the merch aspect of it all, or was it the touring aspect? And like, was there an idea that sort of sparked, or did somebody come up to you and say, hey, you know, you should do this? How did all this manifest?
I guess it was like when Killrazer was starting, just wanting to get merch. And my brother worked for a merch company. You know, he was like a t-shirt printer, and I just I knew how much shirts cost to get printed, and you'd see, you know, I went searching online to find t-shirt printing. Like, really, it doesn't cost that much. You just ripping, like, you're totally overcharging kind of thing. And bands don't know where to look, so they're going and getting stuff done and just paying. Like, you know, you Lord of Merch Kings, you have some great merch. Like, you'd know this. Like, bands that don't know will go, oh yeah, we can get shirts and they cost this much. And like, people like you and me would go, man, you're getting ripped off. Like, you can actually get it done cheaper like that. So it sort of started like that, just trying to get banned for merch for Killrazer kind of thing. And then kind of not wanting to share it with anyone, because we wanted to have the best merch. Like,
yeah, that's right.
But then, just sort of start to think, well, it could actually be a business, you know, like just doing the highest quality merch you can for, you know, a decent price, and being a metalhead too, being able to cater for the metal bands, because a lot of these metal bands will go to a t-shirt company and they know nothing about, you know, metal designs, you know, so they don't know how to work with the bands, whereas we can go, you know, well, we know, because we're metalheads, we know what the artwork's going to look like. If they say it's going to be a 7-color Larry thing with flames, it's like, we get it, you know. So that's just started like that way to sort, you know, just try and get some extra income and maybe, you know, make a business out of it. But then the touring side started as well, and then it just kind of combined itself to become one kind of thing. And the touring thing started by complete accident. It was, kind of a weird thing that when MySpace was still around and you used to spread your ads to other bands' pages and stuff. Remember MySpace?
Yeah, jeez. Flash in the pan.
And I put one on Paul Diano's page, you know, just advertising the band, and their manager wrote to me in very unkind words, sort of like, you know, get effed, who are you? How dare you? You know, and I'm like, I'd had a few beers, and I just thought, you know what? Just write back, just like, oh, sorry, mate, I'm really sorry about that, but I'm a big fan. Like, how come he's never toured Australia, you know? Woke up the next day and there was an agreement in my email box. You want to tour Australia? This is what needs to happen. And I'm like, what? I've never done this before. So I spoke to a couple of friends, raised the money and did it. And it was a, you know, big success, and learnt a lot. So we did it again the next year. Then, you know, did the same thing with Rip Rowan's, just bringing the person out and having us as the backing band. and just kind of learnt through those tours. And obviously we're putting down merch for those things, and as we're touring, we're getting support bands to do their merch for us, and it just kind of built up like that. But never was a full-time job or anything. It was just a lot of time with little money. But we're metalheads. That's what we do. But I guess in the last few years, it's turned into something a lot more serious.
Well,
not just a hobby.
Well, I was looking on the website, and so you can see like the first year, the next year, the year after that, and it's just like it's growing and growing every year, and already this year the amount of tours that you've done, geez, I mean, you're not slowing down. It seems to just keep ramping up, and I'm like, oh, geez, you got a lot on your plate. So I mean, it's fantastic. It's great for the punter out there who and especially for the bands that you've been bringing out are bands that people just never expected that they'd ever get to see. You'd have to travel overseas to see these bands if you're ever going to, and a lot of people just never get, never make it happen.
Yeah, we've always looked at it being from a fan aspect, not a monetary thing. It's like of course you got to think of money, because you don't where's the toilet? Let's flush that. You want to you want to make something of it so you can do the next one. But yeah, it started to get serious with Coroner, I guess. That's when it's like, because the first 4 tours were, as I said, Portiano, Blaze Bailey, Riff Rowans. It was more of a thing to help Killrazer in a way too, because we were the backup band kind of thing. And then after the last 2 tours, we got the guys from Darker Half to help out, and Hazmat as well. But yeah, for it to become its own entity was kind of the Coroner tour was the first one, but then we did nothing for 3 years. And then we launched it with Nuclear Assault last year, then Entombed, then Gilby Clark, then Venom, then Destruction, then Sabbath, then Pain, then Therion we got on sale in September, and we're announcing 2 more next week. But the ones we announced, you'll see again, are specialty kind of acts that haven't really, not just a bandwagon jumping thing. You'll see them. Oh,
come on, spill it. It's only me. I'm a Vault. Nobody's listening. That's all right. I won't put pressure on you. But one thing that I was going to ask is, so I didn't actually know. I mean, I knew that Paul Diana was the first one that you were involved with and got up and running, but I didn't know that story about MySpace of all places. Which is kind of funny and cool as well. But that first tour, what were some of the big takeaways or lessons that you learnt from that first one?
It's not a party. Don't drink every night.
Okay.
Because I was the co-tour manager and hired someone to be a tour manager who'd actually done it many times before. Yeah. And I was also in the band. And, just going, 8 shows in a row, that's fine. Like you can't do that. You just can't. It's just not physically and mentally viable. You can't be trying to run the entire operation and be in the band and, do just everything at once while you're just, partying like everyone else is. You really got to, and it's hard to when you first start doing it because you want to. Christ, you're backstage and everything's for free. It's as much beer and Jack Daniels as you want. It's free. And so, of course, you want to do it. But I did learn, wait till you have the days off and learn how to stash all that stuff to take home.
Yeah. Good man. That's what I was thinking.
Yeah.
Every time, I hate the ones in Sydney where, I pull the short straw and I'm driving and they rock up. And I think the last one we did was Dragon Force at the Manning Bar, and they brought out a crate of little creatures, and I just went, oh, you beauty. And then I thought, oh shit, I'm driving. And I thought, oh man, how do I get these home? And I was the only one in the band that was drinking. Mark doesn't drink anymore. And Tim doesn't drink beer. And then our drummer was driving and he just wasn't, I think he may have had 1 beer and that was it. And so here I'm just like glazing over, looking at these beers going, oh, there's a whole carton of little creatures here. Oh, this is amazing. And then I just thought, oh man, that'd be right. Like the night, but then, obviously if, I wasn't driving, then I dare say that my performance may not have been as on the money as
exactly.
Yeah.
And you got to think, there's that aspect of it, but I guess like like a learning curve was too, just like, not everyone's going to come to every show. I mean, we had on that tour one show that was sold out with I think it was 120 people still trying to get in outside.
Wow.
and then the next night we had 28 people. So it's like if you can't just go, oh yeah, let's just do Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. You've really got to think about it, and not everyone's always going to come to a show, and that's something I learned too. Is not just go, oh, let's bring a band out and do 10 shows. Like, no, just do 3, 4. You've got to look at it seriously, not just as an ego thing or something. To hang out with your favorite band or something. I mean, you've done it plenty of times yourself. Like you go on tour, like it's that's one thing I learned is don't saturate. Because not everyone's going to come all the time, and if everyone's saturating, it's just not going to work. It's going to start going downhill in a way,
Yeah.
And it's becoming saturated now as it is. There's just so many bands coming out.
Well, and I think there's going to be plenty more. I mean, tail end of the year is getting pretty crazy, and I mean, it's great from a punter point of view because you do have that choice. And I remember years ago, you'd be in Europe and you're talking to somebody like a local German or something like that, and they're like, oh yeah, like Blind Guardian played last night, and Megadeth are playing, tomorrow night, and then next week, Creator's going to be playing, and whatever, and they're just so blasé.
Yeah.
And at the time, you're like, oh my god, you live in heavy metal heaven. Like this is incredible. And this is before the floodgates broke open here in Australia, but now it's getting to that point where people do have that selection, and you've got bands that are now getting to that point where they're returning. And so they're coming back for tour number 2, number 3, number 4. And so you do have, fans out there now that that aren't as I'm trying to think that I was going to use the word excited, but that's not the right word, but they're not as hungry as they were before. Obviously, if it's a band that's never been out before, it's a different story. But because we're used to the concept of knowing that a lot of bands come out here now, that novelty aspect's worn off a little bit. So now it's a different game. It's a different game to what it used to be. And and it's still great. I mean, it's a good problem to have, but there's definitely different types of challenges now.
Especially for the local scene, like how do you put a gig on in December when you don't know what international is going to be announced, and like, as you were saying too, like the saturation, and the choice. Like I remember, as you probably do too, like early mid-90s, like there used to be one heavy band maybe a year. Mm-hmm. Like it'd be Sepultura, and then 6 months later it'd be Deicide. And Sepultura would sell out the Horden Pavilion, like 6,000 people. Yeah. Because everyone would go, And then Deicide, like I'm not really a Deicide fan, but I went. I'm not really a Cannibal Corpse fan, but I went because it was the only show within that 6-month period. But now it's like if Deicide or Cannibal Corpse come out, I probably wouldn't go because I'm not a massive fan. Like, hey, they're better than 50 Cent, but I'm not a massive fan. I'd probably go see another band, but I've never understood, like, as you were saying, like in Europe, like if they're playing every night and there's probably 10 gigs every night, where's the crowd coming from? It's like, it must just be, well,
it's probably, I don't know. It's probably a population thing. And I think, maybe to a degree, and I know it's changing here a bit, but, I guess metal in general is far more accepted and it's a lot more mainstream than it is here in Australia. But I think the population probably allows people to be able to siphon out the crowd a bit, and you'll have the elitists that only like power metal, and they'll never be caught dead at a Creator show, and vice versa, and so they probably can afford to do that. But I remember seeing, we had an off day somewhere in Europe, and we saw Metal Church play on a Monday night in Munich, I think, and it was out in an industrial area, and it was the tiniest of shows. It was like the Lewisham, and there was about 30, maybe 40 people there, and I just remember standing there going, oh my god, like, I couldn't wrap my head around it. I couldn't remember, like, this is one of those bands that I had a poster of, I had their CDs, and they're playing this little dive and nobody gives a fuck. So I think there's still plenty of that happening in Europe where if they're not being booked properly or they're not being considerate of what else is going on at the time, then they're gonna,
they can still be dead shows.
Absolutely. But I guess there's probably more of an opportunity that you're going to have better ones rather than not.
Yeah.
And I think the other thing you said before about saturation, we've done the same thing. You get excited about what the tour poster is going to look like, you want to show how many dates you've got. You want it to look impressive. You want people to on that first announcement they go, wow, and so you want to ride that wave of acknowledgement and attention and everything that you get, and it looks great. But then I tell you what, when that tour kicks off and you end up in bloody Wyong or I don't know, like Broken Hill or something like that, and it's just this dismal turnout, and you just go, oh, fuck it. We are never playing here again. But you do it in advance, and you think that everything's going to be okay, and it's just the excitement and the enthusiasm of it. But we know now, and I guess life changes as everyone gets older and different priorities, and we've got to be a little bit more responsible than what we have in the past. So we have to be very careful about when we do play. But we know now that, instead of doing, 40 dates for the whole year of Australian shows, we will just cull that down to about maybe 10 for the whole year. If we've got an album to push, and we'll concentrate that over a couple of weekends, instead of like just doing one a month or something like that, we'll just smash out a tour, make it really concise so you can offset everything, keep the costs as low as possible. And then you just get back to doing whatever you're doing back home and promote from afar, and that's it.
Exactly. When we're all early 20s, you give your left nut to play every weekend, regardless of how many people are around, because it was, that fire and passion, which we all still have. But as you said, there's responsibilities now.
Oh, that's it.
It's like I'm not 18 anymore. It's like you got to, it's like, oh, let's go tour Europe. Okay, cool. Who's paying for it? Where's the 30 grand coming from? Yeah, it's kind of, it's like, we all want to do it, but it's like, it's not cheap. It doesn't just get handed to you.
You're right. And I mean, in the past, you would just go, well, I'll take out a loan. I'll get a credit card, and you'll
you don't care. It's like, sweet.
I'll cop it later. I don't give a shit. And then you come home and you cry because you just you're in financial ruin for the next 5 years or whatever it is. But it doesn't matter, And then as we said, you get responsibilities and different things along the way, and then suddenly I can't max out my credit card anymore. But it's the positive with it all is that you start to actually use your head instead of your gut, and you start to calculate things a lot more, and you get far more savvy with what the best opportunities to take advantage of things and how to really sort of maximize the time that you do have. And so, financially, I don't think we've been in a better position for a long time, because we've just held back a little bit, and we've done the right thing, and we haven't just sort of thrown money down the drain. And even just silly little things like when you go on tour, the time of day that you book flights, and we used to, especially when we were doing Australian shows, we'd book the late Arvo flight the following day. So what are you going to do the next day after a show? Well, you're going to drink and you're going to sit around all day, and then you're probably going to miss your flight anyway, which is going to cost you more money. And so, take that red eye, get home, and recover at home and stop spending money. And it was just silly little things like that you just wouldn't. And look, if anything, it's probably great that, at least from my perspective, I got to experience a lot of that stuff, because they're great stories, great memories, but it's not sustainable and it's not for the long term. And after a while, you have to sort of go, all right, well, that chapter's done. What's the more sort of quieter approach that I can take now? A little bit more, not boring, but just a little bit more conservative as far as the approach. But you can achieve a lot more when you start to really tweak those things and make some better decisions.
I'm hearing you. Oh, totally. Yeah, totally hearing you. Yeah.
Oh man. So Killrazer album's coming out at the end of September, or towards the end of September.
It'll be out before October. As I said, we're finishing off the final. It's this intro we've been doing. It's been the bane of our existence. But never record anything and just give it to someone to mix. Always try and be there. Yeah, that's all I can say.
Good call.
Yeah. So I'm fixing that off. Actually, it's next Saturday. So, and then it's done. Like the cover art's done. We just got to do all the liner notes and all that kind of stuff, which is going to be weird because it's a different lineup on it than it is now, and whose photos you put and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, it's after this intro's done, the rest of the album's mastered and mixed. So it's just this little intro, then the printing and pressing, and try and get some distro done, which we've kind of already got lined up. And then take it from there.
Very good. Well, that'll be out hopefully by the time people
this
listening
comes
to
out.
this. Yep.
Yep.
And
You'll have tracks to play and everything. It'll be
absolutely,
great.
yeah, for sure, man. And I'll have one more stab. Do you want to give me a little hint, or even just an inkling of potentially what will be out and announced as far as that next Hardline tour?
Oh.
Yeah, or don't even give me a name. Just give me a hint. Just give me something to I don't know, to bite on.
Go back to my quotes.
All right. Okay. All right. Done. I'll go back and listen to everything. Anyway, everyone will know by the time this comes out, I'm going to sit here and wait for the announcement and be very patient and listen back to myself talking to you. And
which quote are you talking about? Damn it!
I'm going to transcribe this entire podcast and listen to it, and then start siphoning through everything. Now, what did Doug mean by that? Oh, maybe he meant something else. I'll start developing a complex from this conversation. Anyway, all good, man. All good, man. Exciting time, and I'm looking forward to seeing Killrazer back out there with an album, and happy to support, and been really good talking to you, man. It's been a long time since we've spoken, and I think it's probably the first time I don't know. I think it's probably one of the first times that we've spoken where we're sober as well, probably, or at least I am.
Well, yeah, so. I mean, we had a few meetings over a few beers before, but yeah,
that's right.
That's good. I'm looking forward to hearing the Lord album too. That sounds very exciting what you were talking about. So that's cool.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I'm looking forward to getting that one out. It's been a while coming as well. So
let's line up some crossover shows. Power metal and death metal.
All right. Okay. Yeah, I'm not opposed to that. All right, we'll talk. All right, man.
All right.
Enjoy your weekend, and we'll chat soon. Thanks, everyone. I hope you enjoyed that chat with Doug Dalton. If you want to reach out to Doug, you can do so via the Killrazer website or the Hardline Media website. So that's killrazer.com or hardlinemedia.net. You can find all that stuff on social media as well. What I'll do, you know what I'm going to say. You know it. Go to the show notes over at andysocial.net. I'll have everything, all the social media pages, the main websites, videos, music, links, photos, everything will be in the show notes over at andysocial.net. So make sure you go over there, check it out, spread it around, pass it on to people that might enjoy Killrazer's music or want to learn about some of the upcoming tours through Hardline Media, or anybody that's looking for some merchandise to be printed as well. There's heaps of different things. So spread the word, go and check out the show notes and utilize those resources, and make sure you reach out to Doug as well if you enjoyed the chat, and let him know that you think he's all right. So thanks, Doug. Really appreciate the time, and looking forward to catching up sometime in the future. Before we wrap it up, we have one show left for 2018 for Lord. If you want to check us out in Sydney, we are playing Saturday, November 3rd at the Bullface Stag in Sydney for the Steel Assassins Festival, which is day 2. We're headlining day 2. Day 1 is being headlined by Hobbs Angel of Death. So for anybody that's been listening to the podcast for a while, I had Peter Hobbs from Hobbs Angel of Death, spit it out, on the podcast several weeks ago, or a few months ago now, and you can go over and check that out. But if you want to get tickets for that show, and please buy in advance. If you've got the opportunity to buy tickets in advance, it helps a lot. I can't harp on that enough. It guarantees, it secures money, it helps with the venue, it helps with the promoter, Dave Balfour, who's the promoter for Steel Assassins, who's been on the podcast as well. It helps him. It helps the bands involved as well, such as myself and Lord and every other band on that bill, by purchasing tickets up front. And it's just less hassle that you have to worry about on the day. I mean, focus those dollars on beers and food and merchandise and all that great stuff on the day. Don't worry about buying something at the door, like a ticket at the door. Don't worry about that. Get it in advance. Get it right now. So go over to lord.net.au or andysocial.net. Click on the shows tab on either one of those websites, or you can go to MoshTix as well, and there's ticket options there for either day 1 or day 2, or both, as I would recommend. Before we wrap it up, as always, thank you so much for supporting the podcast, buying merchandise, giving reviews all over the internet, spreading the word, giving me guest suggestions. It all means a hell of a lot. People that are following the podcast on Spotify as well, appreciate it. It's so cool to be on Spotify now. All these things go a hell of a long way. It means a hell of a lot to me. Blah, blah, blah. You know the drill. I'm going to wrap it up. Until next week, folks, take care. Really, really appreciate it. Thank you. Ta-ta.